Greetings, Poke fans! Michael here. Quick bit of self-promo before the video gets started. If you have been a fan of mine for a while and you want some MandJTV merchandise, such as this lovely t-shirt I have right here, you can head to the link down in the description below. There's lots of awesome merch you can get, like t-shirts, there's tank tops, hoodies, hats, all sorts of stuff, and I would really appreciate it if you were to check that out. Many of you have probably seen Pokemon fusions before. There's lots of really awesome, cool fan art that's out there of Pokemon fusions, and there's also the very silly comedic ones that auto-generate the names that can lead to some pretty amusing puns. However, what you may not have realized is that there's actually quite a lot of real canonical instances of Pokemon fusion all throughout the Pokemon world. So today, I'm going to be counting down the top 10 instances of Pokemon fusion that are 100% real. I'll be ranking these based mainly on how true to the term fusion the occurrence actually is. And also, I will only be including instances where Pokemon actually fuse with each other, rather than a Pokemon fusing with some sort of other object. For example, the flower that Flabebe and Floette hold fuses with their body when they become a Florges, but that doesn't apply to this video. So don't forget to leave a like on the video, helps me out a lot, comment below some Pokemon you think will be on the list, and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, here are the top 10 instances of real Pokemon fusion. Number 10, Hoenn Edge, Doublade, and Aegislash. This entry is a bit iffier than the other ones on this list, hence why it is in the last place, but I do still think it works for this video. One of Doublade's Pokedex entries says that it's a Hoenn Edge that splits its sword into two swords. So this isn't an example of fusion, but rather an example of fission. However, it does still kind of work for fission because it splits into two swords and then those combine into one Pokemon. And then when Doublade evolves into Aegislash, those two swords fuse back together to become one sword. Now, like I said before, this probably isn't the best example, hence the low placement on this list, but I do think the fact that the swords are combining together a couple times works for the fusion aspect. Number 9, Binacle and Barbaracle. This one is still a bit iffy, but I feel like it's less iffy than the last one. First off, one Binacle is actually two Binacle living on one rock. So right away you've already got an instance of two different Pokemon combining to become one Pokemon being fused by the rock they live on. And then when Binacle evolves, those two Binacle multiply into 7 Binacle that then combine to form one Barbaracle. Now, it's not as straightforward as just 7 different Binacle combining to become one Barbaracle, but it definitely still works for the fusion aspect here. Also, real quick, I wanted to say this entry bears a lot of similarity to Execute and Executor, how there's several of them that are one Pokemon that then combine to one bigger Pokemon, so I decided to just include one of the two aspects, and I went with Binacle and Barbaracle here because I still hate Execute. Number 8, Dugtrio. Dugtrio is one example of several Gen 1 Pokemon where they just decided, oh, to make this thing evolve, let's just make more of it and have them be one Pokemon. You're gonna see several more examples of this on this video. But nevertheless, that design decision causes it to be a direct example of Pokemon fusion. Dugtrio is 3 Digletts combined together into one Pokemon. Now, those 3 Digletts did split off originally from one Diglett, talks about how they all have the same thoughts and stuff like that, so it's kind of similar to Binacle in that regard, so not the best example, but it still definitely counts. Number 7, Wishywashy. Wishywashy's solo form is a weak little fish that you could probably fry up and toss on a pizza with very little effort. However, school form Wishywashy is a completely different story, and is actually an example of Pokemon fusion. Hundreds, if not thousands, of solo form Wishywashy come together to act as one school form Wishywashy. So that's definitely fusion because it's multiple Pokemon combining to be one Pokemon. However, it's not the best example of fusion, partially because you only actually need one Wishywashy to pull it off in the game, and also because the Wishywashy's bodies are not combining. They're just all kind of there in a group acting together. Their bodies don't combine. But nevertheless, I think it's a solid example of Pokemon fusion. Number 6, Slowbro and Slowking. This is a pretty famous example of Pokemon fusion. If a Shelder bites onto a Slowpoke's tail, it becomes a Slowbro. If a Shellder bites onto a Slowpoke's head, it becomes a Slowking. Slowbro is very dumb, and Slowking is very smart. This is clearly an example of Pokemon fusion because you have a Shellder and a Slowpoke combining into one Pokemon, and the Shellder's body drastically changes as a result of this fusion. However, the fusion is actually not permanent, interestingly enough, because it is possible that the Shellder is knocked off in battle, thus causing either Slowbro or Slowking to revert back into being a Slowpoke. Also, it should be noted, to cause these evolutions in the games, you don't need a Shellder. You just need a Slowpoke, and for a Slowking you need a King's Rock. So, not perfectly accurate in the games, but still definitely an example of Pokemon fusion. Number 5, Magneton. Here's our second example of a Gen 1 Pokemon evolving by just multiplying and having several of them as one Pokemon. Magneton is 3 Magnemite held together by an incredibly strong magnetic force that supposedly is triggered by sunspots flaring up. It may seem like just their bodies are stuck together, but their brains actually fuse too. Magneton's Sun entry reads, when Magnemites combine, their brains fuse into one. However, it does not become 3 times as intelligent. Pokedex snarkiness aside, this is pretty clear evidence that there is more fusion occurring than just the Magnemites being stuck together. So that's why it's a pretty solid example of Pokemon fusion. However, like all the other examples, to evolve a Magnemite into a Magneton in the games, you just need one Magnemite. Number 4, Weezing. This is the last example of a Gen 1 Pokemon evolving by multiplying, which is probably good because if there was any more than this, that would just get absurd. But anyways, Weezing's red and blue dex entry says, where 2 kinds of poison gases meet, 2 coughing can fuse into 1 wheezing over the course of many years. This is the first time we actually see the word fuse, so that's pretty exciting, and also I think it's the most complete fusion of all the ones we've seen on this list so far, since it's not just 2 of them next to each other, their bodies are very much combined, and also seems quite a bit more permanent than all the other ones. However, like all the other ones, to get a Weezing in the game, you just need 1 coughing. Number 3, Beldum, Metang, and Metagross. This entire evolutionary line is built massively on fusion. Metang's Ruby entry reads that when 2 Beldum fuse together, they form a Metang. Then, Metagross's Sapphire entry reads that when 2 Metang fuse together, they form a Metagross. And then it gets even more ridiculous because apparently a Mega Metagross is a Metagross, a Metang, and 2 Beldums. There is a ridiculously large amount of fusion occurring with this evolutionary line, so it had to be one of the top spots on this list. However, it's not number 1 because, like all of the other entries in the games, to make a Metang, you just need 1 Beldum. To make a Metagross or a Mega Metagross, you still can start with just 1 Beldum. Number 2, Duskmane and Dawnwing's Necrozma. This entry will include a little bit of a speculation since the games haven't come out yet and we don't have all of the details on these new Necrozma forms yet, but clearly so far we can already tell that this is an example of Pokemon fusion. Necrozma supposedly absorbs Solgaleo or Lunala into its body to become Duskmane or Dawnwing's Necrozma respectively. Clearly that's an example of fusion because their bodies are combining, and Necrozma is the one that takes over, but it's definitely 2 bodies coming together. And it's probably going to be one of the best examples of fusion we have because I think it's pretty likely that in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you're going to have both a Necrozma and a Solgaleo or Lunala in order to achieve this fusion. But that's still not confirmed, hence why it's not number 1. Number 1, Black and White Kyurem. Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 were revolutionary because they were the first games to ever introduce true Pokemon fusion. Now, of course, several of the Pokemon on this list came before Black 2 and White 2, but as I mentioned before, in the games they're not true Pokemon fusion. You don't need 2 Beldums to get a Metang or 2 Coughing to get a Weezing. You just need 1 of the basic form to get it. However, in Black 2 and White 2, and all the subsequent games that this Pokemon can be obtained in, to get a Black Kyurem, you need a Kyurem and a Zekrom. To get a white Kyurem, you need a Kyurem and a Reshiram. You need both Pokemon in your party that then combine into one Pokemon. This is the truest example of Pokemon fusion in my opinion, since you actually see the combination happen. And while the same thing will probably happen for Necrozma, Duskmane, and Dawnwings, since we don't have 100% confirmation that that is the case, I had to knock it down to number 2. But with Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, 100% real Pokemon fusion, even if it is reversible. So there we have it. Those are the top 10 real Pokemon fusions. Fusion is such an interesting and complicated and exciting process, and it's cool to see it implemented in the games, and honestly, I'd like to see more examples of it. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What are some other examples of Pokemon fusion that you think I missed? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below, and if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like. It helps me out a lot, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you should absolutely do so. I make a bunch of fun Pokemon content that I am sure you will enjoy. And quick reminder, don't forget to check out the MandJTV merch store, and if you enjoy my content here on this channel, you should definitely check it out in other places. I have a second channel for non-gaming content. I have a Twitch stream that I do regularly. My girlfriend Jubilee has a Twitch that I make regular appearances on, and I have a Patreon where if you choose to support me, you can get access to some really cool behind-the-scenes exclusive content. Links to all of those things should be down in the description below. Alright, that's all I have for now, so till next time, Pokefans, gotta catch them all!